Hello guys, and welcome back to our channel. Now today I want us to take a look back into a contentious topic of affirmative action. But this time, we'll be hearing from a Turkish American who's speaking out against the very policies that helped him succeed. He's reasoning that whenever a minority group achieves a position of power or respect, they're met with skepticism and resentment, with people attributing their success solely to their race. But as one brother puts it, it's rich for other minority groups to downplay the role of race and reduce it to a class issue. As he powerfully points out, Black people don't have the privilege of viewing their experiences through a solely economic lens. But time and time again, America has shown us that racism is a persistent and pervasive issue that can't be ignored. Now in this video, he says that he has always been against affirmative action. Literally, he's just telling us which side he was on all along. Now, different people have reacted to his video. So with that said, let's take a look at his video as different people share their thoughts on what he had to say. I will be right back. And when I do, I share my 2 cents on this.
I've always been against affirmative action. And
wait, really?
Yeah. And the reason
I did not know that.
Yeah. The minute that any minority, by the way, including us, gets any position of power, respect, etc., what does everybody do? I just got it because they're Black. They just got it because they're this.
No, I think that's
and you think that's just a right wing thing, but it isn't. It gets into everyone's head.
No, I understand where you're coming from, but I respectfully disagree. I think that is like ultimately caving in and capitulating to right wing framing on the issue. The affirmative action conversation has always been a band-aid solution to like significantly more consequential racial dynamics in this country that have never been addressed at all. And I've always looked at things from a class position regardless, and like the real affirmative action is legacy admissions.
100%.
Like,
we even have a petition on tyt.com to end legacy petitions, because if you're against affirmative action, you have to be against affirmative action for super rich dudes whose dad went to Princeton or gave Princeton $1 million. Okay,
yeah, George W. Bush going to Yale, you know?
Yeah, that's totally bullshit. And by the way, you know who else was an affirmative action pick? Joe Biden. Because Obama picked him because he was an old white guy. He's like,
old
I don't really care.
Old racist white guy who has like gas.
You know that with absolute certainty, because in his final list, it was only old white men, because they knew they had to balance the ticket because he was a young African American. So let's not pretend that they didn't pick on demographic information. No, but Obama did, and so did Biden.
Yeah, but also it doesn't work in that direction regardless, because like obviously the underlying sentiment is that like affirmative action is not the reason why people think Black people are undeserving of their position in society. They already thought that, and now they're using affirmative action to continue to compound on that argumentation.
But it does compound, and I hate that it compounds because it's not true.
If you let a person of color talk long enough, or another minority group talk long enough, they'll tell you how they feel every single time. If you're unfamiliar, the person that said they're against affirmative action is a Turkish American co-creator of the Young Turk show. I believe his name is pronounced Cenk. I can't pronounce his last name. And in that discussion that they posted over the Thanksgiving holiday, they're going back and forth on the issue of affirmative action. And Cenk is saying he's against it because, in his viewpoint as a minority, it's bad. Oh, it's just a class issue. And if you keep bringing up race, you're perpetuating racism. What does that sound like? Where have we heard that talking point before? It's very rich to hear other minority groups constantly say it's just a class issue. You guys need to stop looking at race. We wish we had the privilege as Black folks to look at it through a lens of it just being a class issue. I promise you that. But time and time again, America has shown us Black folks that it's not a class issue, it's a race issue. Example, back in 1970 in the Queens area, you got to be older to know the story. There were middle-class Black people, educators, who wanted to move from their section of Queens into the Rosedale section of Queens. There's a whole documentary on this. And they were discriminated against, where the local residents who were non-Black wouldn't sell their houses to them based on race, not class. There's a whole section, there's a whole documentary on what happened in the Rosedale section of Queens at that time. And it's a perfect example of how we cannot look at things through a class-based issue, because even when we are educated and we have the money to do things based on class, non-Black people always look at us and say, I don't want to sell to y'all. Y'all get out of our neighborhoods. Again, there are thousands and thousands of examples of America telling us it's not class, it's your race. Marlon Hood is one of thousands of examples of that. He applied to Emory University and received a rejection letter that said, "We're rejecting you from Emory University based on you being." You can actually find the rejection letter online, but you can pause to read. Yeah, like that really happened. So I find it comical when non-black people consistently put that message out there towards us that you guys need to stop looking at affirmative action as if we're using it as a crutch rather than what it was, which is guardrails to protect us, qualified people to break into those institutions, to make sure we're not being discriminated on when we want to buy a house in a certain neighborhood or try to go for that certain promotion when we know we're overqualified. Not because we're trying to use it as a crutch to get something that doesn't belong to us. I'd rather for non-black people just to be honest and say it with your whole chest. The reason why you're against affirmative action, not because you don't fully understand it, you don't want to understand it because the history is there. You're against it because you feel it gives black people a leg up over you. The same way the Asians were suing the universities to knock down affirmative action because they thought it gave black folks a head over them. And we saw how that played out because they're effing around and finding out in real time. You guys talk long enough, you tell on yourselves. You're against affirmative action, not just because you think it's a class issue. You don't want black people to get what's rightfully theirs because then they might have a leg up over you in this country that they pretty much built.
What did I say yesterday? I said that people become so left that they shift right. This is what I'm talking about. Cenk knows that what he's saying is he's an attorney. He went to law school. So he knows that affirmative action has nothing to do with what he's claiming that it has to do with, that you get these jobs because you're black. He knows that affirmative action is actually used to basically say you cannot be disqualified from a position, from renting because of your race. Your race cannot be used as a hindrance that could prevent you from having a certain job or living in a certain place. He knows that as an attorney. And he's basically using the conservative talking points that they use to basically argue that affirmative action will ensure that you get jobs, not on your qualifications, but on your race. And this is why I say these types of leftists, this is why I say you need to start paying attention to what they're saying. And this is why I continue to go toe to toe with these people and say that a lot of these leftists, these non-black leftists, are fine with just dismantling classism. And they don't give about racism. It's a back burner issue for them. They're not our allies. You need to start listening to what they're saying. Because they're letting us know as black people and some brown people that our issues don't matter to them because it doesn't impact them.
Done. 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 Donald Cenk. Donald Cenk. Done with TYT. Done. I'm done. I'm done. You know what the craziest thing is? That white men are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. He's never said that he's been against affirmative action. He's always said this is why the black community fought for affirmative action, but affirmative action has always helped other minorities. And now he's capitulated. He's gone full right wing. Him and Anna have gone full right wing. So if any other person that's been sitting up here, sitting straight on the fence about the main show and Cenk and Anna, this right here proves it. The way that he's thinking. White people are fine with affirmative action if they benefit from it. And he knows this. He knows this. Done. 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 I'll just have to figure out a way to watch Dr. Richie and John Adarolo and the rest. I am done. He done no favors doing this. I know they do it every year, but he's just proven how far to the right that he is willing to go. So, the only thing that I can think of, the reason why he's deciding, him and Anna are deciding to go so far to the right, I wonder what Dr. Richie thinks about this. I really wonder what Dr. Richie thinks about this. And I would hope to see him and Dr. Richie sit down and have a conversation. and let Dr. Richie school him. He knows who benefits the most. He has done in-depth reporting about who benefits the most. And for him to turn around and then try to mix legacy and Joe Biden, he's muddying the waters when it comes to affirmative action. And he knows he's muddying the water. So to any and all progressive that is left watching this channel, I am telling you, it's time to bail. It's time to bail. It's time to jump ship. Because he's proven that he's willing to go to the right. After he criticized Kamala Harris, after he criticized everybody else for going to the right, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and all of them. He criticized them all along, and then here it is. He is sitting up here saying that he is against affirmative action. When affirmative action has helped him, and he says it helped me. So basically, what he's saying is, oh, it's helped me, but I'm against it. So it's the same thing that white people do, that other people do. They take advantage of the civil rights that we have fought for. And once they get to where they need to be, they're ready to shut the door. They're ready to tear it down and take it away. And that's all that I can get from what he just said. But he has never, ever had that stance when it comes to affirmative action. And y'all know that I have posted so many of their stories and so many of their in-depth discussions when it comes to civil rights. And now all of a sudden this man is sitting here saying that he is against affirmative action. Oh, I've always been against affirmative action. He's allowing his Republican. He used to be a Republican. And he'll tell you that he used to be a Republican. He's making a bet. He's making a bet that if he can sit here and he can show Elon and others that he is willing to ditch the progressiveness, and he's hoping that he's going to find a way to get in there to be able to fight against them over the next 4 years. Cenk, you're not slick, man. But you're willing to sit here and burn down what TYT has always stood for you to make a point. You and Anna have decided that you guys are going to go this route. Meanwhile, you're hurting John Anarolo and other people who are part of TYT. That's selfish, man. That's selfish as hell, Cenk. That's selfish as hell. And you really came out throughout this. You really came off as a racist. Something that you used to stand against. Something you used to fight against. A lot of you said was, dude. And to sit here and say that you are against affirmative action and affirmative action benefits you, but you're against it, you're doing the same thing that white women do when they help get rid of affirmative action. You're no different than them. Now come and you take away from the black community, you take and you use the things that we have fought for, and once y'all get into a position of privilege, y'all are ready to shut the door and destroy it. I'm sorry. Done.
I honestly don't know why people are surprised about Cenk talking about right-wing talking points. He's always been like this. This is why people have to learn people's race and ethnicity. I've been watching Young Turks for years, not because I'm a fan, because I watch all the news sources. I even watch Fox News, and I even watch Nick Fuentes. I watch Destiny. I watch everybody. I even watch Derek Taylor, all of them. Cenk is a Turk. A lot of Turks have white supremacist ideals. The only reason that he is on the liberal side is because he's too brown to pass for whites. But he's actually not lying when he says he's against affirmative action. If you watch like really old Turks videos where before he had like other staff, when he was doing it like every day, he said a lot of right-wing crazy stuff before. That's why I never really rock with him like that. Anna, she actually is more of a true left-wing person, but Cenk he's really like a left-wing person with right-wing sympathy. He's always been like that. Also, he's a Turk. Most Turks are right-wing. People forget the Turks were the Ottomans, and the Ottomans were a major warlike power for 500 years. They've done multiple massacres and stuff like that. And Cenk is from the upper caste of that society. So it's no surprise that he's going to say right-wing stuff. I'm very surprised that people must not actually have watched the Young Turks, because Cenk saying he don't mess with affirmative action, this is not really out of his wheelhouse. And also a few years ago, a couple of other like far lefties, they was even making videos exposing him, because when he was in college, he was like an actual right-wing person. So yeah, this is not really out of the ordinary for Cenk. Just, I guess people just have short memories.
Now, this Turkish American statement against affirmative action is a reminder that sometimes the most surprising opposition can come from within our own communities. Like for a minority person to openly denounce policies designed to promote equality and inclusion is not only disappointing, but also revealing. It's very clear that this individual has always been on the side of those who benefit from systemic inequality. His words are an illustration of the insidious nature of internalized oppression, where marginalized individuals can sometimes perpetuate the very systems that harm them. The fact that he's been helped by affirmative action in the past makes his statement all the more galling. It's an example of how some individuals can reap the benefits of social justice movements while simultaneously working to undermine them. Now, his reasoning that people attribute minority success solely to their race is a tired and misguided trope. It ignores the very real barriers that minorities face in achieving success, and it erases the importance of affirmative action in creating a more level playing field. And I couldn't agree more with the brother's powerful statement. He's absolutely right that as Black people, we can't afford to view our experiences solely through the lens of class. While economic inequality is certainly a significant issue, it's impossible to separate it from the racial dynamics that perpetuate systemic injustice. Now, as the brother already pointed out, America has consistently shown us that racism is a persistent and pervasive issue that can't be ignored. From the racial wealth gap to disparities in education, housing, and healthcare, the evidence is very much clear, and racism is a fundamental aspect of the American experience. But what's even more insidious is the way that some minority groups are complicit in perpetuating these systems of oppression. When individuals from other marginalized communities downplay the role of racism or attribute our experiences to class alone, they're essentially gaslighting Black people. They are telling us that Black experiences, our struggles, and our very lives are less important than their own. And I feel we need to call out this kind of behavior for what it is, a form of internalized oppression that perpetuates the very systems that people have been trying to dismantle. Now, this reminds me of an article I came across, Affirmative Action and the Persistence of Internalized Racism, where Rodriguez's take on affirmative action is one that I have never heard of. Now, although he understands that he has benefited from affirmative action, he felt like being termed a minority student was irony sharpened with self-pity. Guilt pages him for benefiting from affirmative action, and he seeks forgiveness of those many persons whose absence from higher education permitted him to be classed a minority student. Now, he feels targeted that a policy can create a label on him without his consent, and he denounces the term. In one of his classes, a professor commented on his paper that he could empathize with the cited author because he was a minority, but Rodriguez disagrees. Now, he feels as though he came out of being a part of a minority group because he became educated. Now, his understanding of affirmative action was based on the Black civil rights struggle in the American South. He thinks that affirmative action shouldn't be based solely on race and should lean more on class. Now, Rodriguez goes on to say that those who experience racism the most frequently are the ones who are the poorest, and that affirmative action only stands to help those who are least victimized by racism. Now, he explains that affirmative action's focus on racism has made it easy to underestimate, even to ignore altogether, the importance of class. His advice to combat educational inequality in the United States is the reformation of primary and secondary schools, because affirmative action only grants admission into higher education but does not establish the tools that minoritized students need in order to be successful in those institutions. Now, given this, I completely disagree with most of his statements. Though class plays an alarming role in higher education accessibility, it is palm color supremacy and elitism that established large gaps between classes in the United States in the first place. Racism is so institutional that it really only makes sense that affirmative action is based heavily on race. Now, the policy has proven to expand the accessibility to higher education to so many who it wouldn't be afforded to otherwise. I believe that Rodriguez stands at a level of privilege that most Mexican Americans cannot relate to in the slightest, and his private school education set him apart from many minoritized groups from his area. Now, I must say that it's truly astonishing to hear someone from a minority group express such opposition to affirmative action. And what's even more surprising is that this individual personally benefited from these policies in the past. And yet now that he's reaped the rewards, he's ready to pull the ladder up behind him and deny others the same opportunities. Now, this kind of hypocrisy is staggering. It's a classic case of I've got mine, now you can't have yours. Now, these individuals' willingness to dismiss the struggles of others and undermine the very policies that helped him succeed is a reminder of the dangers of internalized oppression. It's even more surprising given that he's from a minority group himself. You would think he would understand the importance of creating a more level playing field and promoting diversity and inclusion. Instead, he's choosing to prioritize his own interests and perpetuate the status quo. This kind of selfishness and short-sightedness is exactly what's holding us back from creating a more just and equitable society. We need to call out this kind of behavior for what it really is. And we will call it for what it really is. I don't know what you guys think, but he's just shown us which side he was at in the first place. But what do my viewers have to say? Share your thoughts, your views as well in the comment section, and let's have a conversation there. Thank you for always watching, and see you in our next video as we bring you another interesting video.